Hi everyone, this is Melissa. I go by Stitching Liz here on YouTube and also over on Instagram. It would mean so much to me if you would follow me in both places and like and subscribe and comment on this video. I'm so happy to be back with you. Today we're going to be talking about 6 new cross-stitch books. Cross-stitch books can be a big investment. You might find only one chart that you like, and then you have a book sitting on your shelf that is clutter. So I have gone to my local library system and borrowed these books to test them out. And I'm going to review them for you and let you know whether or not they are worth buying. They are all available on Amazon if you would like to go ahead and buy them. But I highly recommend using your local library system to test drive books before you buy them. And that's what we're going to do today. So the first book we're going to look at is Self-Care Cross-Stitch, 40 Uplifting and Irreverent Patterns by Stephanie Rohr. So if you open this book, there is a table of contents, and you can see that the designer has broken up the charts into different categories: Invest in Your Body, Radical and Revolutionary, Mental Health is Health, Self-Care is Not All About You, and Art is Life. So the charts in those sections relate to those categories. There are curse words in several of these charts. That's the irreverent part. There are some snarky sayings. I'm going to show you some examples, but one thing that I thought was very interesting about this book is that the designer gives you levels for how difficult the chart should be to stitch. She gives it 1 stitch if you're a newbie, 2 stitches if you're a beginner, 4 stitches if it's intermediate, and 6 stitches if it's advanced. And each chart is given a number of stitches so that you know how difficult that chart is expected to be. Another thing that's really cool about this book is that the designer does give you cross-stitch troubleshooting tips. Like, for example, my thread keeps twisting or tying itself in knots, and she gives you a solution to what you could do for that problem. So there are a few problems listed here and how you might solve those problems. She gives you cross-stitch instructions if you're brand new and never cross-stitched before, with pictures. Finishing and framing your piece. And let's look at some of the charts. So this one is called Welcome to the Cozy Zone. So a lot of the charts in this book have a floral border of some kind and a saying in the middle. That's the majority of the charts. It's DMC that's called for, and she recommends Aida for her charts. So they're all Aida friendly, although I'm sure you could do them on even weave or linen. So this is an example of one of the floral ones with the sayings. All of the patterns are on the opposing page, and they take up 1 page with the exception of a few charts at the end of the book. Most of the charts are small. So you can see up in the corner that this is where she levels the chart to how difficult it is. So this one is given 2 stitches, so that's a beginner level, not a newbie. So some other examples of some charts. So you can see again, floral saying, self-care is not selfish. This one is different because it's on black Aida. So it's only a few colors on black Aida. It's okay to not be okay. And this one, even though it's on black Aida, it's still rated a beginner level. So she's not giving it a harder rating just because it's on black. Of course, you wouldn't have to do it on black, but there are some charts in the back that are bigger and a little bit different. So there's this one. For example, it says, creativity is messy, I am extremely creative, and it has paint splatters in the background. There are many called for DMC threads in this one. It is rated a 6 in her book, so that's the hardest kind of chart in her book. And this chart takes up multiple pages. And what I like to check for when there's a multiple page chart is if the chart has grayed out overlap lines so that you can find yourself on the chart easily. And this one does. It has the grayed out overlap lines so you can find your place easily when you're switching from page to page. So that is Self-Care Cross Stitch. This book I think would be good for anyone who needs inspiration or is looking for inspirational sayings, who enjoys stitching sayings, someone who enjoys mostly smaller to medium charts, definitely somebody who enjoys stitching little florals with lots of color changes. If you like stitching on Aida, this book would be for you. I think I would suggest buying this one if you like the variety of sayings and you would do this kind of stitching in mass. If you just see one chart that you like, I think you could definitely borrow this from the library and have time to stitch one chart before your library book is due. So this is a great book to look at if this is your kind of stitching. Okay, so the next book that we're going to look at is called Mini Masterpieces, the Cross Stitch book. There are 50 projects in here and they are mini sized. This is done by Gabby Pico and Ale Pico. This book has 50 charts that are mini famous paintings that you would find in an art gallery or maybe even on your own wall. There are people like Van Gogh, Monet, Vermeer. And what they've done is chart full coverage mini pieces. All of these pieces are approximately 40 by 40 stitches. They're a little bit less than that. They fit in a 40 by 40 grid. So I'm going to show you some examples of some famous ones that you might recognize so you can see what they look like. Some of them are more detailed than others. For example, this is American Gothic, the original painting by Grant Wood. And you can see there is some back stitching in this one, but it's a full coverage piece, this size. They do suggest Aida for their fabric. They use DMC as their called for threads. Some of the charts call for quite a lot of DMC because there are many little color changes throughout the grid to make the painting. So you can see this one is mildly detailed. It has a good recognition of what it is, but I have seen similar patterns on Etsy that are even more detailed, even though they are also minis. Obviously, making something mini, you would lose some of the detail, but I've seen more detailed paintings, miniature sized on Etsy. So this is American Gothic. This is an example of a more detailed one. This is Cat with Red Fish by Matisse. So you can see there's more shading in this one. There's back stitching to bring out all of the little lines. And then another one I want to show you is The Girl with the Pearl Earring by Vermeer. You can see, again, this is lacking in some detail. It does have shading in the face and within the dress, but it isn't a very detailed face. So, and you would have to stitch all of this black background in this one. I'll show you a few more. This is the Mona Lisa. So you can see she has no facial details except for a mouth and some shading in her skin. The coloring does feel accurate. It does feel like good coloring, but it is lacking in detail. Finally, I want to show you Starry Night. This seems to be a better version of a painting. This includes more detail. It looks a little more like the original painting. This one I think would be very fun to do without being too difficult to do. So, and you would get a good representation of the painting. The last thing I want to show you in this book is that they do include at the back a DMC color chart. They go through all of the DMC colors and give you a representation of what that color is. It even goes through the colores and specialty threads, the metallics. I believe all of the charts only use regular numbered DMC and not metallics or specialty variegated threads, but they do include a whole chart of all of the DMC that you could possibly find. So, do I think this book is worth buying? I think number one, your piece is going to be small enough that you could finish a piece within the time of a library borrow. So you could get one done if there's one that you like in here. I think you could get that done in the amount of time you have to borrow your book. I think that the charts are fun. If you are looking for fun times doing mini paintings and you don't necessarily care about the detail. These are not particularly detailed paintings, representations of the paintings. So I would say that you might be able to find more detailed charts and products on Etsy for this kind of cross stitch. But it is nice to have a bunch of them in one book. So if this appeals to you, definitely buy it. But I'd say take a look on Etsy first to see if you have a favorite painting that they have charted and is a little more detailed. So the next two books are by the same author, Gail Busey. The first one is Enchanted Garden cross stitch. This is 20 designs celebrating birds, blossoms, and the beauty in our own backyards. And the second one is Inspired cross stitch, 30 patterns plus alphabets. These books have a very similar feel to them, being by the same author. And the style of the charts is very similar. So in Enchanted Garden, the charts feature sayings and designs that feature mostly things you would find in a garden. There are several charts. There is an alphabet in the back. She does have some basic stitching instructions. They're very basic. And she uses back stitch and French knots in her projects. So an example of one of the projects is this one, The Secret Garden. And she tends to write a little blurb about the chart. And this one you can see is super long. It says, and the secret garden bloomed and bloomed, every morning revealed new miracles. And there's kind of a full coverage image at the bottom. There's a border. This is a long chart, and she does tell you on the next page what fabric she used. So this one was done on 28 count white Jobelin by Witchelt. She gives you the stitch count. This is 65 wide by 137 high, and the stitch size. She tells you about cutting the fabric and how to finish it. But what is a little difficult about this book and the other book by Gail Busey is that the charts for the patterns are all on one page. So you get a full color chart, and this entire long pattern is squeezed onto one page. It makes the stitches, the grid, very tiny and can be difficult to read. In addition, some of the charts are actually colored in the background, which I am not sure I understand why. For example, the grid will be green and then the actual symbols in the chart will still be colored. So it makes it difficult to read the charts. Here are some other examples in the garden book. We all grow better in sunshine and with love. This is one of the smaller ones. Flowers are happy things. And so the smaller ones work on one page of a chart. But you can see she lists her DMC that she requires. She does require DMC for her charts. And you can see even this tiny chart is a huge list of DMC. So there is a lot of thread required for these charts. I'm going to show you a couple of more in the garden one. This is what's interesting about this book, besides that it has these charts, is that she includes a couple of things, recipes and activities that you can do that relate to gardens, backyard activities. For example, this one, Feed the Birds, tells you how to make a bird feeder. There's another one that tells you how to make infused honey. So that makes the book a little charming. It has a lot of charm and appeal to it. The charts are charming. If it's your style to do something flowery and bright and pastel, these charts might appeal to you. This one is called A Butterfly Blessing. So that's the Enchanted Garden book. The Inspired Cross Stitch has inspiring sayings that would uplift you, make you feel better. So in this one, she has it broken down into different sections. So section 1 is called Inspire, and then she lists there are different categories within Inspire: courage, self-esteem, peace, serenity, joy. And there are 2 charts within each of these, and these are the names of the charts. So here's some examples. These are, you can see they're very flowery with the words. There's this one, Hope is the Song of the Heart. And again, in this book, she tells you what kind of fabric she used, the stitch count and the size, and what you'll need to do to the fabric and how you can finish the project, fully finish the project. This one is a little more whimsical, maybe not as flowery. The miracle is here in this moment. This is called Like Sunshine. Stay close to those who feel like sunshine. And what's nice is in the back, She has a section about charting and creating your own inspired words and stitches, and she gives you an alphabet and some advice on how to do that. So, would I buy these books? My short answer is I don't think I would buy these books because I do find that the charting is a little problematic, especially in a book. You would, I think, have to make a working copy to be able to effectively use this, that maybe even you would have to enlarge the working copy to use it on some of the charts. And since they're in color, that can be difficult unless you can find a color copier. So that's something that I would say is difficult about these books. I also don't know if many of these charts could be done in the amount of time that it would take you to borrow this book from the library. Some of them seem like they would take a little more time. There are a lot of color changes, a lot of colors. They're a little intricate with borders and full coverage pieces within the charts. On the positive side, they are beautiful books. If you like just looking at something beautiful, these are inspiring looking, they're beautiful to look at, they're calming to look at, and they're just lovely. So if that appeals to you, go ahead and buy them, but definitely try and take a look at them at your library first to see what you think of them. So the next book is called Enchanted Cross Stitch, 34 Mystical Patterns for the Modern Stitch Witch. And this is by Grace Isabel. So you can see this is a smaller book, and all of the patterns in this book have to do with it kind of mystical things. Things like tarot, things like astrology. She breaks up the book into different categories. The zodiac, mystical moths, crystals, tarot, crystal ball, potions, healing plants, moon water, snake, all-seeing eye, moons, candles, sampler page. And within those categories, there are either one or more charts that fit the category. I'm not sure why there couldn't have been a contained miscellaneous category for the ones that only have one chart, but they are broken down into separate categories, even if there is only one chart under that category. There is a pretty thorough introduction where she goes over cross-stitching, how to cross-stitch, what thread to use, what kind of fabric. She has this interesting page about her favorite colors of DMC. All of her patterns require DMC, and she does recommend Aida for all of these. So these are all Aida friendly, although I'm sure you could use even weave or linen for these as well. So an example of one of the charts is she does the whole zodiac. This is Aquarius, which is my sign. You can see the zodiac ones are more full coverage, but all of her charts, including this, are quite small. So they are very quick looking to do. You can see this one requires backstitch. It doesn't have very many DMC colors. It's not DMC heavy. I want to see if I can show you without showing you the actual chart. At the bottom of every chart, the charts fit all on the opposing page. They are full color charts. And she gives you the example of what it was stitched on. So this one was stitched on 18 count white Aida, size 8 by 8 inch, using a 26 tapestry needle and a 6-inch hoop. So if you're a very beginner stitcher, this book might be for you because it tells you everything that you need to know, and you would be able to follow the instructions to do it. In addition, all of the charts are quite small, so they would be quick to do, and it would be great for a beginner. So this is one example of the astrology. Some other examples of her charts. This is in the mystical moths section. This is in the crystals section. And this one is an all-seeing eye with snakes. So there's a variety of different patterns, but you can tell they are all on a very mystical, astrological, witchy theme, which is very popular right now. This book was published in October. It's brand new. So what would I say about whether or not you should buy this book? A lot of the patterns in this book are on a similar theme. If this theme appeals to you, then you might like to buy this book. It is also a very nice book. It's hardcover. It feels good in your hands. Now, I think you could get this from your library and certainly stitch more than one pattern by the time the book is due. They are that small, some of them. I think it's a great book for beginners. And I think even young stitchers might like this because some of these themes appeal to like a teenager, younger reader. So I would say that this is a good one to buy, but that you could definitely get it from your library and make good use of it from there. So the last book that we're going to look at today is called Cross Stitch with Cattitude, 20 Possum Designs, and this is by Emma Congdon. And I think if you're familiar with her usual work through Stitchrovia, you will be a little surprised by these designs by Emma Congdon. They are different than what you're used to from her. So this was just published in October. It just came out, and Cattitude is the right word. These charts are sassy. They have a lot of attitude. They are not sweet cat charts. They are snarky. They are funny. They are definitely sassy. So she gives you a little welcome, and at the end it says proceed with caution and kibble. She gives you some information about tools and materials, and she includes kibble as one of the materials. So this is an example of one of the patterns. I hate you the least. That's coming from the cat. And you can see she gives you a little quote. This one says, my humans, aka the staff, are marginally more tolerable than your average Homo sapiens, but that's only because they make my life so easy with their endless attempts to win me over. Keep those treats coming and perhaps I won't leave. So she has a quote like that with every pattern. And then she gives you the need to know. So stitch count on this one is 103 by 103. She gives you the stitch count size on 16 count Aida for this one. It does change. It's not always 16 count Aida, but it is almost always Aida that she recommends. And she tells you to stitch with 2 strands for cross stitch. She gives you the essential supplies, which in this one you can see is DMC. She uses DMC throughout the book for all of her charts. She even tells you how big of a hoop to use for this one. And all of her model stitchers are listed in this little box, which is very nice. So this is an example of one of the charts. I'm going to show you some more examples. So there's this one, all of these different cat heads. There's this one, feed me and tell me I'm pretty. It's very cute. You can see this is a very colorful book. All of the charts are in full color. Now there's something about the charts that I am not crazy about. One of the things is that the charts are all multiple pages. These are not tiny patterns. They are quite big and they take up multiple pages on the chart. And the pages split up are not shaded where the page break happens. So there is no overlap to guide you. You're just supposed to figure out where you are. The page is just cut in between the pages. So I find that a little difficult. I like to see the overlap. This is another chart. Boys, whatever, cats, forever. You can see this one is a little more full coverage. There's a lot more stitching in this one. This one is particularly full coverage. There are a few little spots that there's no stitching, but for the most part, it's full coverage. In the back, she gives you a conversion chart between DMC and Anchor. So if you need that, and she gives you some little instructions if you are substituting DMC light effects, what to do. So would I say that you need to buy this book? Well, first of all, I would say if you love cats and you like a little snarkiness, this book would be for you. If you're a big fan of Emma Congdon, I think if you like her usual style, this book might not be as appealing to you as her usual style. But if you love cats, if you love bright colors, I would say this is for you. I don't think this is for a beginner. I also don't think that you could complete any of these charts within the time that you would take the book out from the library. So if there's something that you like in here, first of all, it's likely that you'll like more than one thing. They are very cohesive in their design. So if you like one chart, you will probably like another chart as well. So it's definitely worth buying for that. But I don't think you can finish this in the amount of time that you would have when you borrow a book from the library. If you just want to take a look at it, borrow it, take a look at it. But I think this one might be one you have to buy if you really want to use it. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was so much fun to share these books for you. I hope you found something inspiring, maybe something you're going to run out and buy. But if nothing else, I hope that you have been inspired to use your local library for your cross-stitching practice. It is free, it is fun, and it is really functional. So I will see you again in my next video. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.